Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we'll continue our lab, the Star Trek lab. This is the 8th video. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working with or continue working with different group policies and link them to the domain level, okay, and apply these group policies to certain Active Directory groups. If we can see here for example, here we will have our group policies. It will be applied on our main organizational unit, and it will also be applied to the sub-organizational unit. So for example, we have a group policy, okay, that need to apply certain backgrounds, screensavers and lock screens to our computers in our main organizational unit and to computers in our sub-organizational units. So we have created the group policies and linked them to the domain level. So what I mean by linking them to the domain level, I am not linking them to a certain organizational unit. I am linking it to all of the objects in the domain, the main OUs and the sub OUs. Okay, so this we have discussed in the previous video. We have configured the group policy to apply certain background and screensaver and lock screen to all of our domain users. So any user that has an Active Directory user account and logs into any machine in the domain, he will see a certain fixed background, screensaver and lock screen, and we have been discussed this, and I showed you all how we can do this. And then we have, after making different group policies, because we have configured 7 group policies, so after configuring them all, we have tested them on one of our Active Directory users, and it was successfully implemented. So this what we have discussed in the previous video. In this video we'll go further in our lab scenario. We will begin configuring a DHCP server, and we will configure it to distribute 7 subnets or 7 IP subnets. We have IP version 4 used in this lab and also IP version 6. We have 7 subnets IP version 4 and 7 subnets IP version 6, and every ship or every sub-organization units, its computers or the computers in this sub-organizational unit will have a certain IP address range different than the other computers in the other sub-organization unit. So for example, computers in deep space sub-organization unit will have different IP address than the computers in the sub-organization units in the Columbia ship, okay. And also the main organization unit will have, its computers will have a different subnet than the other subnets of the sub OUs. So we will configure a DHCP. We will configure it to distribute 8 subnets IP version 4 and 8 subnets IP version 6. So we work with this configuration in this lab, and we will also configure a file server in this lab. What we will do, we will have a file server. It will be in the main office, okay. Let's consider this a main office and the others are branches. So we will have a file server, okay. The file server, we will give every ship or every sub-organization unit a file or a folder on this file server. So for example, Columbia will have a folder on the file server, so it can put all of its data on it. For example, Deep Space ship will have also a folder named Deep Space 9 on the file server, so it can put all of its data in it. So we know all that every ship will have different departments. So for example, the IT in the Columbia ship will have a folder, okay, on the file server in the Columbia folder. So for example, we have a main folder on the file server from the Columbia ship as a whole, and in the Columbia folder we will create subfolders. Every subfolder will be for a department, okay. So we will create a file server, okay, and actually we'll use a technology called distributed file system. We will configure it later, but we will use a file server, okay, and we will give every ship a folder on this file server, okay, and every ship its folder will be in its folder we will create subfolders for every department in this ship, okay. So we will do this in this video also, or in this lab. And actually we will do another thing. We need to have some sort of classification of files and folders in the main OU or in the main office or the head office and in the sub offices or the branches. What I mean by classification, for example, if you have a lot of files and folders for different departments and different branches, so what you'll do, you will get a file or a folder and then begin classifying each department. Or for example, you have Colombia, you will get a folder and name it Colombia, and then we'll begin putting files in this folder. For example, the file of the IT, or you have a section for the IT and you will tag it as IT, and then have another section for the HR and you'll tag it an HR, and another section for example the engineering, and you'll tag it engineering. So the folder of the Colombia, or the file folder for the Colombia ship, will contain sections. Every section will be for the documents of the department in this ship, okay, and we will tag it as or tag it by the name of the department. So imagine that you have a lot of documents and a lot of folders for different branches and the main office. So you need to organize these files, okay, to be classified and tagged, okay. So you need to have, or if you do it in the manual way, we will get file folder, or we get a folder, okay, and then begin organizing the documents in it, and you will give every branch a folder, okay, and put its documents in it, and then these documents can be classified further for every department in this document, for example, or in this ship. For example, Colombia will have a folder for the Colombia ship, all of the documents will be in it, and then we can begin dividing these documents as per department. So the IT department will tag, we will tag its files in the folder by IT, and then we will tag the files of the HR in the folder of Colombia by HR, and so on. So while we are doing classification and tagging, this is a way that we can find files quickly. So for example, if I need to know how much files I have in the Colombia ship concerning the department of IT, I can run a report from the file server after I made classification for all of the files and folders in all of the ships and the main office. I can run a report from the file server telling me that, for example, we have in the Colombia ship, we have how much folders, and we'll have files for every department. For example, the IT will have 10 files, the HR will have 10 files. So this is a way, or this is one benefit of classifying and tagging the files, okay. This is one way. And also we can use this classification to have, or to control which type of files users can access. For example, if I can for example make a permission, okay, or make a rule that, for example, only the IT manager can access certain files in the file share of the IT. For example, as I said before, we will have a file server, and the IT will have every branch will have an IT share folder on the file server. So for example, I need some specific personnel in the IT, okay, to access certain files in the file share of the IT. For example, we have a file share for the IT for Colombia. All of the IT personnel can access the files in the file share of IT for Colombia, okay, but I need certain files in this file share to be accessed only by the IT manager. So this can be done easily if we classify the files and folders in every organizational unit, or in every branch and branches, okay, or every main branch and branches. We will see this, I will show you in a graph, but the classification is very important. Classifications help us to easily find files and folders because we have classified and tagged them, and actually we can use this classification and the classification of files, we can use them further to control what users should access what files. For example, here is a little bit of what is the classification. Classification, it's used to categorize files and can be used to select files for schedule file management task. There are many ways to classify a file. One way is to create a classification property. Anyway, it's a classification of files. We will show you all a little bit of a graph how we can classify files and folders. So in this lab, what we will do, just a moment. Well, this is a little bit of a graph what we will do, but I will show you all what I mean by this. So here we can see, for example, that this is our file server. We have a main folder in the file server. We name it data cube. This will be the main folder in the file server, and then we will have a subfolder for every branch office. Okay, so for example, here is the Columbia ship. This folder will be tagged as data cube, and then we will tag this folder, okay, as Columbia, okay, NX. This is the Columbia ship, and then we will have different folders, subfolders in this folder, okay, for every department. For example, we will have a folder named high level D. This is a folder that will contain sensitive information for all departments, and this is called normal level D. This is another folder that will contain normal documents for normal sensitivity. It will be here. And then we have the global level. This is the documents that will be available for all. So we have three kind of folders for three type of documents: high level documents, normal level documents, global level documents, or available documents. And then we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will have 5 folders for 5 departments. We have a folder for the researches department. Remember this, that this is a ship that will contain researches. We will have a folder for the medic team or the department of medic. Okay, we have a folder for the engineering, a folder for the IT. We have the folder of the squad, ship squad team. So the other team members of the ship will be added to a folder, or they will have a folder, or we'll have a department. Okay, so in every one of these folders we will have a lot of files. We can have Excel, we can have Word, we can have Excel, can have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on. So let's see here a scenario. In high level documents or a high level departments, we will have certain files, but these files will be tagged as follows. Take a note. This file, for example, it is an Excel sheet. It will be tagged as Columbia high level, okay, and it is put by human. Okay, so they are tagged. So this file will be tagged like it is in the Columbia ship. It is a high level document. It is done by human. So by tagging it by all of these tags, I can easily find when I search for documents. For example, if I am in Windows and I need to search for a certain file in the Columbia ship and it is sensitive, okay, and it is done by human, I can find it easily because the file is tagged already by all of these tags. How this will appear, I have show you here a little bit of a graph. This is a text file, okay, that I have put named text document. It has put in the high level folder or document, okay, or high level folder. So we can see here that we have certain tags here. It is the location of files, it is Columbia. The species we can put here human, and the department we can put here the department, and you can select from here. So by selecting all of this information, it will be tagged on the file. So when you search for certain files, these tags will be used as a criteria for searching. For example, I need to get files in the Columbia ship, so it's easily will be found because all of the files in the Columbia ships will be tagged with a tag named Columbia. For example, I need to find high level documents in the Columbia ship, so I have tagged this file as Columbia, okay, and a high level, so I can search Windows easily and find this file because it is tagged already. So tagging and classifying will make our job easier to find different documents with different categories or different tagging, okay, and it also will help us, for example, to control what users access what files. For example, if this file is tagged as high level Columbia ship and it is put by human, for example, so I can using something called DAC rules, I can limit the access to high level documents to a certain type or a certain group in the Active Directory or certain users in the Active Directory. For example, here let me show you a little bit of a graph or a little bit of an example. Here we have in the IT different kind of files. We have Excel, Word, so and so. So the IT or Active Directory group can access this IT folder, all the documents in it. But what if I need the IT manager to access certain files in the share of the IT? Okay, this can be done by putting special permissions on the file itself, okay, and telling or controlling or put a tag on the file named the high level, okay, for example, or sensitive data, and I can limit the access to this file with this tagged sensitive data, for example, only to be accessed by the IT or the IT manager only. So this we will discuss the DAC rules in the upcoming video, but this is one way to use the classification to help us control what type of access can be limited, or what type of access we can give to certain users. How this will be done: we will first set up the file server role on the server. So classification properties, so first we will install file server role on the server, okay, and then what we will do, we will create something called create local property. So this is the first thing that we will create. We will create our classification. So how we want to classify the files. So first I need to classify the files by the location, okay. So for example, files in Colombia ship, it will be tagged by the location of the ship or the Colombia ship. Or for example, if you have files in, for example, in Egypt, it will be tagged as Egypt. If you have, for example, files in US, it will be tagged at US. So the files or the classification of the files will be done according to the location. So what we will do after installing the file server role, we will go to something called classification properties, right click, and then tell him create local property, okay. What this local property should look like, or what we will include in this local property, we will have here our, after typing or right click here and tell him local create local property, we will have a window. So we name our classification location of files, and then we'll tell him location of files from which ship, okay. And then here we'll put in this box all of the ship names, and this will be a multiple choice, okay. Just a minute. Okay, so here we will make our first classification. We will classify files by location. We will tell him classification properties, like click create local classification property. We will name it location of files, and then we will tell him location of files by ships, and then here we will put all of the ships in this box, and it will be as a multiple choice. So you can choose, if you have the file, you can tag it by the location, and these locations will be in a multiple choice list, so you can choose from it, okay. So here we will create location of files, okay, and there is all of the ships that we have. It will be in a multiple choice list, and then you can classify the files according to the location. So you will choose which file in which location, okay, from a multiple choice menu. For example, I think I can show you all here. Just a moment. So this multiple choice, how does it look? For example, you can see here that this file, okay, you have here multiple choices. You can click on which one of them you need. For example, this will be for the department, okay. You can choose this file to which department, okay, it belongs. In the location of files, we will have the same multiple choices, but not with departments, with the names of the ships, okay. So this is the location. So this is the first thing, we will classify files, okay, as with the location or the ship it comes from. And this is the first thing, we will have the name of the ships, okay, and we'll have there will be in a multiple choice list. And then what we will do, we will have another way of classifying the folders. It will be the files and folders, it will be according to the department which it is created in. So we have, as I said before, different departments. We have research department, medic department, engineering department, IT department, ship squad team department. We have 3 types of folders for sensitive data or high level data, normal data, and global data. So we'll create another classification. The first thing, we create classification of files according to the location, and then we will create another one, right click classification properties, and create local classification property. This will be this time by the department. So we will classify files according to the department it came from, or the department that have created them. This is the department files, and then it also will be in a multiple choice, and this will be the departments that we will put in this box or this multiple choice. So we have classification of files according to the location, and then according to the department, and then we will have a third classification according to the species that has created this file. For example, we have human, so we have in Star Trek a lot of species or a lot of genders and species, as I said before, or types. So we have human and we have Klingon. This is very famous race, and Borg. All of these are races and species. So we will create a third classification of files according to the species, and this also will contain a multiple choice. Okay, so at the end what we will have, let me show you all a little bit of a graph. At the end what we will have, after doing all of these three classifications, okay, what we will have, remember the just a moment, remember this, we will have, after creating all of these classifications, we will have every file in every folder in the file server will have these three tagged options, and you can choose. So you can here, for example, have this file, it is a text file. You can tell him that this is from the Department of IT, it is in the location of the Columbia ship, and it is put in the species by human. Okay, you can do this manually or you can do this automatically. We will know, or I will show you all how this can be done automatically. So after classifying the files, we will make automatic rules to classify files. For example, let me show you I mean what by classification of automatic classification of files. For example, if this file, it is in the high level folder in the file server, so it will be tagged automatically that it is in the Columbia ship high level human. All of this will be done automatically. How this will be done, we will create a classification automatic rule telling him that if any file is put in the Columbia folder, in the high level folder, and it is done by human, then you need to tag the file with the three tags for the three folders. For example, the Columbia, and then the high level, and then the human. So I will show you all how this will be done, but this is a way that we will create automatic classification rules. So every files or all of our files will be classified automatically. You don't need to do this manually. You can do this manually or do this using automatic rules. So after creating the local classification properties, we will do something called create classification rule. Okay, so we'll tell him to create a classification rule. Okay, so take with me what we will do here. The classification rule, what will tell him that if first we name it location Columbia files. So we will make a rule telling him that anyone, if he puts something in the folder on the file server which is named Columbia NX, you need to tag all the files in these folders by the tag Columbia NX. So first we will name the rule location Columbia files, and then what we will do, we will tell him this is in the general tab. After that, in the scope, he is telling me where is the location of this folder. So we will tell him our location folder, it's in D data cube Columbia NX. So I need you, if anyone puts something in this folder, you need to tag all of the files in this folder and put a tag named Columbia NX02. So all files will be classified as Columbia NX02 files because it is put in the Columbia NX02 folder. Okay, and this is the type of files. For example, he is telling you you need all of the files, or you need certain files. You need user files, group files, backup and archival files, or application files. So you can identify, or you can specify which type of files you need to classify. Here we need to classify all of them, and we need to classify any file. Okay, any type of file, so we can choose them all. This in the scope okay tab. So in the general, we will give our classification rule a name, and then the scope, what this rule will be applied to which folder and which files. And then in the third tab, which is the classification, we are telling him how this will be done. We have three types of classification. Here we have something called content classifier and something called folder classifier. What is content classifier? This is a way that the file server will tag the files or classify the files. How this is done? For example, if you have text files or Word file or Excel file, or here for example, this is for the content classifier way. If any Word file or Excel file or text file contains the word Columbia NX02, it will directly tag it as Columbia NX02, or will tag the file as Columbia NX02. So here we choose the way. This is the content classifier. This depends, or this way depends if it finds the word Columbia NX in any file in the folder of Columbia NX, it will tag it as Columbia NX. Okay, so this is another way. As for the folder, it is much more simpler. It means that if any file is within the folder of Columbia NX04, or it is in the folder of Columbia NX02, it will tag it as Columbia NX02. It is different than the content classifier. The content classifier, it searches deeply in the files. So if you have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, text files contains the word Columbia, okay, it will tag it as Columbia NX02. Okay, so this is a way of classifying files. And the other way, which is not content classifier, it is folder classifier. It depends, or it's telling, or the file server will classify files or tag them as Columbia NX02 if they are put in the folder of Columbia NX02. So we will use the folder classifier option, okay, and then we tell him what type of just a moment. So let's continue, guys. We will use the second way of classification, that we need the file server to tag every file in the Columbia NX folder. We need it to be classified and tagged as Columbia NX02. Okay, so after doing this, okay, this is a way for the folder classification, or this is another way. If we use the content classifier, so we need to tell him, okay, that if the name of, if you have or any text file or Word file or any file within the folder of Columbia NX, or in any folder, if you have any folder in the file server, sorry, if you have any file in the file, if you have any files in the file server that contains the names Columbia NX, we need it to be tagged as Columbia NX. This is the content classifier. How we can use it? We will go and tell him tag Columbia NX, and then configure, and tell him in the configuration here a string, or we need him to tell him that if you find the word Columbia NX in any file in the file server, or in the folders in the file server, if any file in the file server or in the folders on the file server contain the name Columbia NX, so you will tag the file as Columbia NX. Okay, so at the end we can see that here it is tagged automatically, because after doing this configuration, we will run this rule, and it's already find a text file that contains the word Columbia, so he tagged it already, or tagged the file with Columbia NX. Okay, so this is the way that we classify the files. Okay, we have another thing called evaluation type. Here we need this rule to re-evaluate existing property values. What we mean by evaluate existing property values, if you have already files created in the file folder, and you have created this rule now, so you need to tag the files that is already there. So for example, if you have files already in the file server, or you have files in the folder of Columbia and they are not tagged or classified yet, so by clicking or re-evaluate existing property values, he will tag the files in the folder. So he will run the rule, and if he finds the word Columbia, or he will find files in the Columbia folder, he will tag them with Columbia. So this is by re-evaluate existing property values. So if there is already files in the file server or in the folder in the file server, he will re-evaluate, or will run the rule and tag them as needed. Okay, so this is the rule for the Columbia, okay, Columbia location. So we can see that there is a rule called location of Columbia. We need, after doing the rule, to tell him run classification rule. So after running the classification rule, okay, we will the files will be tagged. Okay, and we will not only make a rule for the Columbia, but we will make a rule. Remember, we have 8 branches, so we'll make a rule for Columbia, classification rule for Columbia, and then classification rule for Deep Space Nine, and then classification rule for Enterprise NX. So we'll make 8 classification rules. Okay, so we will run the classification rule after creating it. Okay, and then after that we will have a small report. Here we can see that he will tell me after running this report how much files I have, okay, that are tagged or are tagged with the Columbia, or how much files are in the Columbia ships. Okay, and he will do this according to the classification, so he will count how much files are tagged by Columbia or tagged by the name Columbia NX02. So this is simply what we will do in this lab. We will make classification rules, we will configure our DHCP server. So this is a small brief about what we will do here. This is, for example, a file that I have put in the Columbia folder. Here we can see that it is tagged already. After doing the rule and running it, he have already tagged the file with Columbia NX02 because the text file contains the word NX02. Okay, this is the content classifier way. If you use the folder classifier way, he will tag all of the files in the folder Columbia. Okay, he will tag them all as Columbia NX2 even though they don't contain the word Columbia NX02. Okay, so we are telling him to tag every file in the folder named Columbia, tag them as Columbia NX02. So it is tagging it by the folder, not by the content of the file. Okay, so this is the way. Let's see how this will be done in our lab. We will do it practically. So let's see how this will be done. So we will run, we will begin working with the lab itself. So here, sorry, I think this is not correct. This is not it. I need to run the video itself. So this is the video. We will begin configuring the DHCP, and then we will configure the file server role, and then we will begin working with the classification. Okay, or we'll begin working with classifying the files. Okay, so here we have we will begin now. First of all, we need to create a folder. So we'll have a folder or a main folder. Okay, here we will put all of, or we'll create in this folder subfolders for every ship, and every folder in this main folder will be for the ship. Okay, and it will be shared for the ship. Okay, for example, here, remember the graph, we will have a folder named data cube, and in this folder we will create subfolders. Every subfolder will be for a ship. Okay, and this subfolder will be shared for the ship so they can put their data in it. Okay, after of course creating or after adding the file server role. Okay, so now we will create in this folder about 12 or 17 subfolders. Every folder will be for a ship, and this folder will be considered as a file share for this ship on our file server. Okay, so now what we will do is now go and run a small script that will create subfolders in this main folder. Okay, every folder would be for a certain ship. So we have a script to create folders. If you have many folders and you need to create them one time, so we have a small script. This script, you are telling him simply that I need to create a number of folders by, or subfolders by the names of so in a certain folder. Okay, how you will get the name of the subfolders? We have a text file that you should go and read it. In this text you will find the name of the folders and their location, and this is the location of the main folder. So you have two parts in this script. Here you are telling him to create subfolders in this main folder. The name of the subfolders would be in a text called folders. Okay, so this is simply, here you are telling him the location of the main folder, and here you're telling him, or you are putting a command telling him to create subfolders in this folder. And to get the names of the subfolders, you need to go to this location, okay, and read this folder. Actually this location, it's from a previous lab. We need to modify or update it, because here this text is not in D Mass Effect domain, DC domain, it is in D Star Trek DC domain. Okay, so we need to be careful of this one. Okay, so here we are telling him that this is the main folder. So here this is our folders, the name of the subfolders. Okay, so here we have something called, we have two folders created, one called DataCube and the other called BioShips. BioShips, this is a folder that will contain our Active Directory home folders. Okay, we will create home folders for every Active Directory user in our domain. All of them will be put in a folder called BioShips. Okay, so here this is what is the BioShip, and then we will run the script. Okay, so now we are running the script. Okay, here I am modifying the location of the text file. Okay, so here it is. Okay, now we will tell him save and then run run the script. He will create 17 subfolders in the DataCube folder. Okay, every folder will be for a ship. Okay, so if you go to the DataCube folder, the one that we have created from a couple of seconds, okay, we will go to the DataCube. You will see that it will contain 17 subfolders, and we need in every subfolder to create subfolders for the departments in every location. So the Columbia ship will have, okay, departments. Okay, the ship will have IT department, research department, medic department. So we need to create in every subfolder subfolders. Okay, we will see that in a moment. Here I will modify the script itself. Okay, but we don't need to do this. Okay, because we can copy and paste them simply. Okay, but this is a way. I'm telling him to create subfolders. Okay, in the Columbia ship. Okay, so now it's not in DataCube, it is in the Columbia ship. Sorry guys, one moment. Sorry guys, let's complete. So now I am modifying the script to create subfolders in the subfolder itself. So this is the name of the subfolders. So now we will go to the text file and modify it. Okay, so here there is a text called folders. This is the file that the PowerShell goes and read the name of the subfolders that you need to create. So here we will tell him to create these subfolders, okay, in the subfolder, and we have already changed the PowerShell script. Okay, we can do this and create it by a script, or you can copy and paste. This is much simpler. Okay, so now what we will do, we will tell him to initiate or implement the script. If we go to the Columbia, or we go to the Columbia folder, subfolder, or the Columbia folder, we will see that it has already created the folder. We don't need to do this every time because we can copy and paste simply. Okay, we don't need to do all of this. So just a moment, just here what we will do, you can help in here. Okay, so what we will do, we can see that here we will go to the folders. So I need to show you all something. No, here if we go to the DataCube folder, okay, I think no, we will go there. Okay, no, just a moment. So here if you open the DataCube and then every subfolder, okay, so here we can see something. Here we can see that every one of these subfolders will contain the following folders. We will contain, if you get a little bit here closer, okay, so let's go there. So every subfolder will contain these folders. Okay, so we need to copy every subfolder will contain these subfolders for the departments. Okay, so we'll have in every subfolder okay, these folders for the departments. Okay, so the US Grissom ship will contain a folder for the engineering department, the IT department, the medic department, the researchers department, the ship squad team departments, the folder for the normal documents, normal for the high level documents, folder for the global documents. Okay, this will be in the Grissom ship, will be in all of the ships, so they are repeatedly put in every ship. Okay, so here we will do this all, so we will copy them and paste. Okay, so we'll paste them in all of the ships. Okay, and then paste. Okay, and then here it go. Okay, and then the Voyager. Okay, and then paste. Okay, so we have all of the subfolders have certain subfolders in them. Okay, for the departments. Now we will create the DHCP role, or we'll begin configuring the DHCP role. Okay, so just a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Now we will begin configuring the DHCP server or server role, and then we'll begin configuring the 8 different subnets. We will configure 8 subnets IP version 4 and 8 subnets IP version 6. Okay, so every ship or every sub-organizational unit that contains computers will have these computers in the sub-organization unit will have 2 IPs, IP version 4 and IP version 6, and every computer in every sub-organization unit will have different IP version 4 and IP version 6 from the other sub-organization unit. So every sub-organization unit computers will have different subnets. Okay, so here we'll tell him add DHCP role, or we'll add manage server roles, and then we tell him next. Then we will begin. Remember that this server have 8 network cards installed on it, so here we will add the DHCP role. Okay, 8 network cards with 8 subnets. So here we will add also file server, and we will add the DFS namespaces and DFS replication, and we will add the file server resource manager. So we will add the file server resource manager and DFS namespaces and DFS replication and data replication. Okay, and then install. So we will add the file server role, and then we will use the feature in the file server role called DFS. This is a very good feature for file server redundancy, so you can have 2 file servers, okay, and they will work simultaneously. So if one file server is down, the other will work, and it will have the data updated instantly. So they have 2 file servers, and they are replicating their data or the data in them continuously. Okay, let's do, or let me sorry, just repeat something here. So here we have, or we're configuring, sorry guys, because I have passed it quickly. We are configuring, or we are installing the DHCP, and then we will begin configuring or begin authorizing the DHCP server. So we need, after configuring the DHCP server, to authorize it, to give it IP to the computers. So if you didn't authorize it, it will not give IP to the computers. So now we have authorized the DHCP server using my domain admin account. Now we will add the DHCP console to our custom console. We have discussed previously how we can create a custom console. A custom console, it is in brief a console that contains different consoles in it, so you can work different things from one console. So for example, if you need to work with DHCP, you need to open the DHCP console. If you need to work with the DNS, you need to open DNS console, and every console will have a window for itself. But in this way, custom console, we have all of the consoles in one console, and it's only from one window. So now we will tell him add snap in, or file add snap in, or remove snap in, and we will add the DHCP, and we will add the DFS, and we will add the file server resource manager. so we didn't add. We will add the file server resource manager. Okay, and then we begin configuring the different subnets. Okay, after configuring the DHCP, we need to configure 7 subnets IP version 4 and 7 subnets IP version 6. Okay, I will only configure the first subnet in IP version 4 and IP version 6, and then you can repeat, or you can work with the other process repeatedly, or you do the same with the other subnets. So we'll create a new scope. Okay, and then we will make the first IP subnet version 4 for the command center or the main OU or the main computers, or the computers in the main organizational unit. IP version 4, we will name the scope actually, but just for a moment, because it has been it was repeatedly. Just a moment. Okay, just a moment. So now we will begin creating the scope. Right click and add scope, new scope. Okay, and then next. Then we will begin adding the Starfleet command. Just a moment. Okay, so it's the Starfleet IP version 4 scope. So this is the IP version 4 for the computers in the Starfleet organizational unit. Now we will tell him the beginning of the IP address, or the beginning of the range. It will begin from 192.168.1.20 and it will end with 192.168.1.200, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 or slash or prefix network prefix, which is 24. Okay, and we will tell him next. We don't have any exclusions, we don't have any default gateway. Here we have different as we see here, we have 7 DNS servers, because you remember that this server, it is a domain controller, and we will also install the DHCP on it. It is not a best practice to install DHCP with the domain controller or with the Active Directory server role, so don't do this. But as for the limitation of my hardware, so I am putting both on one server. Anyway, I need to specify one DNS for every subnet. Okay, so here is my first subnet for the computers in the main organizational unit, so I needed to have only one DNS. Okay, that will be only for this subnet. Okay, we remember that every we have 8 network cards. Every network card will have an IP from one subnet, so the main or the first subnet will have DNS, okay, which is from the same range or from the same subnet. So we will see that now in a moment. Here we can see that my main subnet is 192.168.1. So the DNS should be from the same range. So here is the DNS. So my DNS server will be 192.168.1.2. This is the DNS server for this subnet. So every subnet will have a DNS for its own. Okay, so this is the subnet, and every subnet we will give it its DNS. Okay, so now we have one DNS, okay, for this subnet, and we don't have Win's server. Okay, remember why we have 8 DNS servers? Because we have 8 network cards installed on this server, and every network card has an IP address, and every IP address will be a DNS server by itself. Okay, so now tell him next. So this is the configuration of the first subnet. You can do the rest, so you can do the other subnets. Okay, so this is the first subnet in the IP version 4. Now we will go configuring the IP version 6. Remember that we have an Excel sheet, okay, with the subnets that we need to make. So now we tell him new scope, okay, and then we will name it. This is the Starfleet command, or the computers in the main organizational unit. This is the IP version 6. Okay, IPs. Here there is a little bit of a trick. Here you can't specify the subnet mask. It's specified automatically for you, and this was the problem for me. So here we can see that he doesn't give you a choice. He wants only that you give him the IP address version 6, and he is putting a prefix or a network prefix /64. okay, this is instead of the subnet mask. Okay, and this is a little bit of a tricky because it doesn't give me a choice to play with the subnet, which is very critical to for example, if I need my subnet to be cracked, or to be divided to small subnets, all of this I need the subnet mask to play with it, okay, or to divide my subnet to small subnets, for example. So this is not here. So this was a problem why I didn't continue using IP version 6 in the lab. I tried to use it, but there was problems. But anyway, I will find a solution for it. But here we will put the subnet, or here, for example, here we will put the first, this is my first subnet, okay. So we put the starting range, this is the range, this is the beginning of the starting range of this IP version 6 range, okay. So we will put it, he will copy it and put it, okay, and then tell him next. He can't put 53, okay. So this is the prefix, okay, so we can't put it, he is put it automatically for you. This is /64. So here I am a little bit confused because I didn't use IP version 6 before. So here is telling you if you want to exclude some IPs from this range not to be distributed, we need to have some IPs excluded from this range for the servers. For example, this server should has a static IP version 6 range, okay, and every server in my domain should have a static IP address. So we need to exclude some IPs from this IP version 6 domain to be given only for the servers, or to be given from printers if you have, okay, you need, or to given to any device that needs static IP address, or to be given an IP that is not changed, or it's not automatic or dynamic IP, okay. So here we will telling him, we need to tell him to give us a certain range. So here I'm telling him I need to have, okay, from a certain range to a certain range. So here I'm telling him I need to have, okay, here from 1, for example, okay, from 1 to, I need to gain from the 1, okay, need him to tell him from 1, or for example I need the range, or to exclude from 11.00001, okay, and end 11.00000f. Okay, this is the way IP version 6 it is written. So this is the way I can exclude some IP version 6 IPs, and tell him add, and this is the exclusion, and then next, and then that's it. So here if you tell him next, you need to tell him add, okay. Actually, I said before, it took me a lot of time until I realized how to use this way of IP version 6, but this was a problem because the prefix was not right. Tell him next, okay. So this is, I need to exclude from 1, okay, to FFF, and then next, and then finish. So this is how to include or how to do an IP version 6. But if you check the range that it is already distributing, you can see that there is some differences, okay. So for example, here is the scope. This is completely different. If you tell him right click and see the address list, okay, so I need here to see what range he, just here for a moment, I need to tell you a little bit of something here, okay. So here we can see that he's telling us, okay, if we right click, just a moment here, I need to him right click and then properties to see what he will distribute IPs from what range, okay. So now we will see, for example, here right click and properties. Here we can see that he is telling that he will start distributing from 1 until FFF. These all are distributed, but this is not correct because the prefix or the subnet mask is /53, so this is not correct. If you go to the Excel sheet, okay, so remember this, if we go to the Excel sheet, here is the Excel sheet, and then we will go to here, okay, and then we'll go to the Excel sheet, this is the one, remember that he is telling us here in this that he is distributing from 1 until this. Remember this this thing, because we will need to see it in the Excel sheet. So here we can see, okay, this is different. Okay, the starting and ending is different. Here he begins from 0 and then he will end 7FFFFFFFFF. Okay, but here he's telling us different thing. He's telling it's beginning from 1 until FFF. So the starting and ending range is different from the one that I am intended. Okay, so here is my first IP version 6 subnet, and this is the starting and ending range, and they are calculated exactly. Okay, with the subnet mask of 53. Okay, so remember that he gave me a subnet of 64 and I can't change it, so the starting and ending range is different. Okay, the start and ending range here, it is something, and the one that I have configured on the DHCP, it is a completely different thing. Okay, I tried my best to change the subnet mask of the IP version 6, but I didn't find any way, so I have already considered working with IP version 4. I think I'll find a solution for this problem. Okay, because I didn't find any solution for it. So I think I will stop here, guys, because the video it's almost getting to 1 hour, because after that we will begin working with the working with the classification. Okay, so let's go further here. I need to not to go there. Okay, so no, so here, okay, no, sorry, we will stop here. Let me wait for a moment. So here I'm telling you all, guys, that the IP version 6 prefix scope seems not correct. Okay, this is the scope that I was telling you about. The starting and ending range is different from the one that I have put in my Excel sheet. Okay, so the IP version 6 prefix scope seems not correct. I will check when a PC takes an IP address. Okay, so this is what I will do. I will stop working with IP version 6 until I see how the IP will be taken, because the scope is different. Okay, so here we will consider using this first. Okay, subnet mask IP version 6 IP version 4, and then we begin the classification rule. So I will stop here. This is the minute 34:15. so remember all of this, this, because we will continue working with it, because the video have already reached almost 1 hour. So we'll continue working with the classification. Okay, classification in the file server, how we can classify files, how we can make automatic rules for classifying files. Okay, so hope this video was informative for you all, and I would like to thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.